And then Ashley, while we're waiting on Brandy, if you want to introduce yourself,
Yeah,
I'll let you
sure.
take it from there.
Okay, great. Yes, excited to be here. I will be moderating this session with Brandy. My name is Ashley Dammeyer, and I am the head of strategy for our restaurant and convenience vertical at Bounteous. Bounteous is a global digital agency, and we specialize in a number of verticals, but restaurants is kind of my world. So it's a perfect fit to be talking to Brandy today.
Perfect. And it was exactly the time we needed. So
Yeah,
Brandy,
perfect.
Ashley, I'll let you two take it away. Brandy, you are still on mute though.
Absolutely.
All right.
I did know that. I couldn't start saying that I was on mute. I needed to make sure I added my background though. So I wanted to get that on
Perfect.
first. Unless you want to see my dogs. So
Always want to see the dogs.
Yeah.
I will step off and I'll let you two have a great chat.
Thanks, Carrie.
Awesome. So I'll just kind of kick us off. Today, we're talking about mentorship and career growth for women in marketing, but we're also talking about challenges and opportunities for restaurants as they look to expand with off-premise and focus on digital. So we're going to have a lot of great stuff to cover today. Please feel free to leave questions in the Q&A chat, and we will get to those at the end. Cool. So Brandy, do you want to take some time to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background about your career?
Sure, I'd love to. So first off, thank you for having me, and Ashley, it's been a pleasure to get to know you as well. Excited to be here. I have had a very interesting career already in the past 15 years in the restaurant space. I started out in 2008 by joining a fast casual concept out of Orlando, Florida, Tijuana Flats, and worked my way up from marketing manager to director there, overseeing all of brand marketing, as well as field marketing, and lots of changes, lots of growth, but really had a lot of boots on the ground. And then at that point, I spent about 8.5 years there, and decided to take a leap of faith. And I moved from the Orlando area up to Atlanta. And I took a role in 2017 as the director of off-premises for McAllister's Deli as part of Focus Brands. And the interesting thing with that was it was the first off-premises role in the building, with 7 brands at the time. So really a new space, and this whole premises, word just started buzzing, and third-party delivery started growing, and it just became a huge focus. And I thought, our leader at the time had a very exciting vision for building this out and recognizing the need for this role. And so from there, spent a couple of years in that role, growing the space, and then moved to Boston and helped to really propel their off-premises business in the digital department. And so I was able to work with third-party delivery, launch it, scale it from white space across all the major aggregators and players across the nation, and for all the U.S. domestic business, and build out a catering program that went into pilot while we were there. And then from there, moved over to Jimmy John's close to 2.5 years later. Moved over to Jimmy John's to lead their digital e-commerce business. So app and web optimization, online digital ordering, and really kind of got more into the user experience and just overall, digital ordering space than third-party space. So that was kind of cool to see that all come together. And then most recently, I joined Another Broken Egg back at the end of May. So only a few months in here as a senior director of marketing, where obviously we've got 82 units in 15 states, and able to really dive back into a really, really healthy growing brand, but a smaller brand that, able to kind of have my hands in everything. So that's really exciting where I am now.
That's awesome. I think it's pretty impressive that your career is timed with you being on the cusp of bringing off-premise and digital channels to life. So you've really kind of been there since the start of this industry and the way it exists today, where many brands had to pivot quickly with the pandemic and, really didn't have an understanding of how to have that strategy implemented when the world shut down. So we're going to kind of circle back to that topic in a little bit, but I wanted to start with more about just your experience and your career growth. And, what do you kind of attribute to the success that you've been able to have in your career over the last 15 years?
Well, that's assuming that I think it's successful and you think it's successful, but
We
thank
think
you.
it's
Thank you
successful.
so much. I can just tell you that I have taken chances. I have taken leaps of faith when I was nervous or afraid to, and really said, what would be the alternative? It would be regret, right? So moving to
Mhm.
Boston I actually said no to the recruiter initially, and I always take conversations because I think it's healthy. But I, said, what do I have to lose going up there and working for this amazing company that I believed in, from childhood? I thought, the alternative was regretting not going and trying to take a role, because I didn't know anybody in Boston. I didn't, I was far away. I might not like it there. And certainly, always being able to take risk, not say no. I don't really turn down much in the way of opportunities to not only connect with industry peers, but other marketers outside of the industry and learn from them.
Mhm.
But overall, the anything that I've been afraid of, challenged, scared, nervous, speaking, I have decided that that was going to be the best opportunity to move me forward in my career.
That's great. Do you feel like you've faced any challenges specifically because you're a female in the space?
Absolutely. Now, I have always felt that, I if you, prove yourself, it doesn't really matter if you're male or female. Now, I certainly know that's not always the case. And perhaps I've been even, naive to some things in the past because I show up and think I can play with the men and the boys. But I will tell you that, in the restaurant space specifically, there, of course, you see a lot in the past, you've seen a lot of leadership that's been male. So, that's starting to really change, which I think is great. And I think, embracing that change and riding that train it's just the beginning. So the opportunities and the pay are starting to definitely be, skew more equal from male, female.
Mhm.
And I think the other thing is, just specifically in restaurants, we have, you know, the operations teams tend to be male in many cases. Again, that's changing. So I don't want to make blanket statements here, but and then you have a lot of the marketing teams have been female historically, and often you get not only a little bit of perhaps maybe the feeling of the male to female challenges there, but overall the idea of just operations in general as a challenge, believing in what marketing is doing
Mhm.
and marketing understanding the challenges that ops faces on a day-to-day basis also tends to be something that I've really embraced, and it does help overcome that feeling of your ideas is you're a woman, you're not delivering your idea, or it's not being accepted.
Yes, that's very true. We have to start speaking the same language to get on the same page, I think. Is there anything that you've sought out for support, whether that's networks that you've joined or meeting different mentors who've helped you along the way with your career that have really helped you be more confident and go after these positions, with confidence?
Well, sure. I mean, our CEO at Another Broken Egg was my direct boss at McAllister. So, he's a huge mentor to me, and I have stayed in contact with him as he's moved around to different leadership roles. And, the idea of just being able to say, hey, there's an open role, and have that trust to at least bring me in for the conversation, to have that interview with the other team members, is all stemmed from our rapport, back in 2017 that we built. Additionally, so some of my past coworkers or bosses have become mentors and our friends, you know, and I say, I don't say friends lightly, even people who work directly for me teach me so much. And I learned so much from, you know, my team members, but that's having that close relationship with them. I think from an industry standpoint, you know, going out and accepting speaking engagements, panels, going to these conferences, having like-minded individuals who you're not afraid to ask those questions. You know, I've got a great network on a board that I sit on, in a little plug here, the marketing execs group for restaurants, part of the National Restaurant Association. You know, it's a group of amazing people, and we have this wonderful friendship. But on top of that, we can email, who are you using for this vendor? You know, and nobody's embarrassed to ask or say they don't know or don't have it all figured out, because none of us really do. So, you know, I have used, you know, professional networking, brand innovators, you know, and connecting outside of my industry to really understand what some great practices are for digital or for other types of marketing, because really, like, there's other industries that are very far ahead in this space. And so kind of getting out of your restaurant bubble is critical. And I think additionally, you know, just relying on, it's amazing how much your internal cross-functional team is critical to your support. Day in and day out, you spend so much time with your team members. So to build that rapport and to really dive into the culture, but believe in, and just to, you know, I've sat there with an operations team member and said, I really would love for you to walk me through a P&L, and to really understand what an operator challenges face, where my marketing numbers hit on your line. But I had that relationship to be able to ask him without feeling, you know, like I should already know this at this point.
Yeah, that's great. And then with your team and your direct reports, how are you supporting them and their career growth? You know, whether they're women or not, how are you building them up to be leaders as well?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I like some of the sink or swim approach sometimes, and I joke with my team members. In hindsight, they have thanked me for that, because it's how one of the ways I learn, like jumping in and diving in head first and saying, you know, okay, I'm not going to necessarily hold your hand through this. Like, you come with the ideas, or, hey, I'm not going to make this meeting. What, you know, can you present for me? Right. Let me know if you have any questions. I do that a good bit, because I think it encourages, that, again, overcoming that fear and realizing, wow, that wasn't, you know, I can do this. And, giving that person that limelight to succeed too. So I'm big on, it's we, not I. I want at any time a strong team member to be able to jump in and take my place. I tell them that I want them to take my role. And I also, you know, I want to pick the best person that's going to work with me, that's going to make all of us as a department look better.
Yes.
And I want to know that I joke, but I say, if I ever got, you know, hit by a bus, like, I want you to know what I do, and I want you to be able to do it, you know, pretty easily. And so I operate as more of a we than a, you know, a leader or somebody who's telling somebody what to do. And I believe that empowering anybody, women, but anyone, team member, male or female, under you to make decisions and to know that there's a career path, is really critical, especially nowadays.
That's great. You mentioned the restaurant space is kind of unique, and in some aspects a little bit behind other industries when it comes to things like digital transformation and marketing strategies. I'm curious what's keeping you in the restaurant industry as you've made different job moves over the past 15 years.
Oh, I say I drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, I really did. And you know, thinking back to when I came out of school and going into an ad agency, and, you know, that really not lighting my candle, or, you know, really driving me, because that was, you know, advertising major, that's what you do. Then I got in the restaurant space, and it was just so fast paced. It's so different every day. There's so much changing. And, you know, even with COVID and you know, how horrible that was for the industry, so many things did come out of it that were positive to move us forward in the digital space, to, to move us forward in so many different ways, like how we look at labor, how we look at our team members, how they want to work, what incentivizes them to be a part of a company. So down to like the culture and the building of, camaraderie. I think that we learned so much from COVID. And to me, like the passion of the restaurant individuals is so intense. It's just my friends in the industry. We get together and all we do is talk about work and I mean we really do, with a little bit of like how's your partner doing or what have you. I mean, it really is very much a such a close-knit industry, such a group of friends, of caring individuals, but just fast-paced and able to I actually tell people when I hire them, sometimes, and I hire outside of the industry too, it brings a lot of different skill sets and talent and experience, but I tell them, this is, you're not, we try to have work-life balance, but this is very much a fast-paced industry and a fast-paced role that there will be fires and we're going to have to, shift gears. And if that's not something that you enjoy, now's a good time for us to interview each other and decide if it's the right, situation for you.
Yeah. You have to be the type that thrives in that environment and doesn't get burnt out. Yeah. Well, that's great. I know that during the pandemic, it opened a lot of doors for your current job at Another Broken Egg Cafe, and that you guys are just exploding in growth and doing a lot of really great new and exciting things. So let's dive into that a little bit. What are some of the big initiatives and what do you think is leading to the growth that you guys have seen over the last couple of years?
Well, I can tell you all the initiatives that have come into play, which I'll get to in a minute, which I can't take credit for either. But I can also tell you that people are they're dying to get out with and be together again. And brunch lends itself to that. And the brunch category is growing and people are drinking a lot more than ever, just candidly. And we have such an amazing culinary program. We say indulgence, but we've got such an amazing chef, amazing menu. And people come together over food and want to not only be together, but they want to celebrate indulgence, what we say. And part of that is also with a spirited connection. So alcohol, there's the play on those words, and having a really diverse beverage program, a diverse menu, gluten-free options or gluten-friendly options, shall I say, and the option for somebody to come in and have the ambiance, the food, the beverage, the space, in a setting that that makes them thrive, I think is where we've really been successful. And then sure, you then bring in the past 2 years, we've essentially launched online ordering. We did in 30 days before I got there. We launched a new catering program. We got on 5 different third-party delivery services, launched on third-party catering aggregator sites, built an entire first-party and third-party strategy. So all of those, I say third-party delivery, we actually enabled that through an integration to filter through our channels too. So we can, if you come to anotherbrokenegg.com, you can get your food delivered. You can place a catering order online. None of that existed before. So that alone, and a new POS system that's cloud-based that also could, really has the ability to improve operational excellence and put all these integrations together. It comes with challenges, I will tell you that, but nonetheless, the idea of just let's get it done, and everybody rallied to get it done instead of kind of having pushback or saying it's going to be too hard. We can't handle it. Everybody said, let's go, and made it happen, which is super cool to learn about as I talk to some of our franchisees and our team members.
That's great. And you just rattled off some significant initiatives that probably would have taken a lot more than, 30 days or whatever they took during the pandemic. You guys were able to escalate them, get them done, pivot, and the business has benefited from that, which is just amazing. How has the team responded? You kind of mentioned that they were along for the ride, but their whole job is probably changing, right? If you're in marketing, you're talking about marketing for delivery now, or changing the experience when you come back into the dining room. How is the team feeling about all of that?
Well, as I always say, sales cures all. So certainly having the incremental revenue from these channels, and tying everything together with integration and technology that talks to each other has really been a game changer. Not remiss to say that it's not hard on our team members in the restaurants too, and our operators who are facilitating the learning all of this new technology. But I think one thing that we are really excited about is our new CRM platform. That as you talk about kind of tying this all together, we can, it's one thing to have all these new features and new accessibility channels and digital channels to grow sales, but understanding who that guest is or customer coming in, and how they are consuming us and what they are consuming and when and how frequent, and learning more about them and being able to talk to them in a way that is personalized and speaks to their interest is really the next phase of where we are striving to go to towards. So the CRM program also has automation capabilities, SMS and email capabilities. So it becomes turnkey for segmentation and the ability to actually say, okay, so I know Ashley as our customer comes to us twice a month and she has a family, she has 2 kids, she likes to drink, one of our mimosas, and she, generally orders on these waffles. And then, she also now orders on a third-party delivery channel once a month, and caters from us once a quarter. Right. And that's where we're trying to get to. So we know exactly how you're consuming another broken egg, even if it's not in the 4 walls of our restaurant.
That's so powerful to have that kind of information about your customers. And I'm sure you guys are excited to act on that. Are you looking to bring that experience now that it includes so many digital touch points, where before it was just within your 4 walls? How are you looking at extending the brand and keeping that experience consistent and great for your customers when they're enjoying your mimosas at home versus at the restaurant? What are some of the things you guys are doing to make that great?
Well, one of the things we also did was launch our, alcohol to go kits, which resemble like a Capri Sun pack. They're actually really cool. And, so you can have your mimosa or your, Tito's and watermelon Red Bull at home, or in a setting. So, starting to look at like how we are, if we know how you are ordering, say, delivery, right? Are we looking at, let's see if Ashley knows that we also, can send her mimosa home with her, with our special, flavor that she can't get at home. Or are we, looking at how we can appeal to group settings at home or in the workplace with, some of our tailored offerings. So I think the beverage program, having options to take that with you not only drives, it's accessibility, but it drives check, and, drives the experience that, and alcohol might be one of those differentiators, right? That you don't, normally you might come and get it there in one of our cafes, but you don't necessarily know that you can take that home with you and replicate one of our, spiked cold brews or something that's really unique to us that, it'd be hard to replicate at your own, home.
That's great. I can only imagine those spiked cold brews have kind of helped spur some user-generated content on social media and maybe some even additional platforms that you guys weren't as focused on before. I'm curious, have you guys expanded marketing programs with this kind of reinvention of some of these great things off premise?
Our off-premise business has just skyrocketed, and I think it's still a big opportunity to optimize our, I always look at off-premise as a couple phases. Like let's get on these platforms. Let's get the integrations right. Let's make sure our guest-facing presence and menu is clean and accurate, right? Because we're playing on we're playing on a third party's site, and there's a lot of work that goes into that maintenance and management of a menu on a third party site that's not always turnkey down to hours and descriptions, and then you get that order might come back into the kitchen display unit and be completely read differently based on how the third party has it set up. So there's challenges just from a functional standpoint. So I think it's crawl before you walk and run. And so you've got to get things functional and working. And I'm big into leaning into that operational side to try to ensure that we are putting our best foot forward and things are working correctly. Mm-hmm. And then moving into the optimization phase of, are we taking advantage of what all of the third party sites have to offer? They're launching new technologies too, catering on their platform, group ordering. Are we taking advantage of that and opting into some of those things, which in itself markets itself because of your visibility in those channels and people viewing, your menu, and then highlighting promotions that might occur outside of the direct or the third party channel. So we are definitely looking at what those next steps are and how we bring attention to some of the new offerings, our seasonal menu items, and we lift those out and explore new channels.
That's great. With so much changing, operationally, you guys are talking about new packaging that you've implemented. You're talking about new technology that you've adopted, new strategies for marketing. How have you brought the franchisees along on this ride? And how has the marketing team gotten them excited about all of the new, changes?
I am a big believer in business cases. I think, we're not ever the first to do it. Hopefully we're not the last. So I talked to a franchisee in the way, I could talk about some of past experience and I'll talk a little bit about another broken egg. I talk to franchisees in a way that resonates with them. And that is like spend versus return.
Yes.
What can this do for my bottom line? And so candidly, again, we are in the business to make money. We're making people happy, but we are in the business to make money too. And so making money makes everybody happy. And so I don't stray away or shy away from that conversation because that is how this is for franchisees' livelihood. I mean, might be their entire bank, is life savings into this brand. And if they're going to entrust in the brand and us as a support role, we need to deliver, results to them. And so I'm also very candid in those conversations of we just have to do this because technically we are that far behind and we have to make this upgrade in order to make sure everything talks to each other. Packaging is a tough one. Packaging is one of those that it needs to represent the brand and needs to be functional even more so than ever because things are, items are leaving the building and food integrity is critical, but it needs to be cost efficient and make sense as well. So it's finding that right balance. So whenever we launch new technology or get buy-in, we tend to test, we tend to show business cases from other brands or test internally and show the business case first at maybe a company location. We prove out the concept, hopefully show a lift in sales if that's applicable. And then, we give a period of time also for adoption. We don't say it's, oh, you're launching tomorrow and it's going to cost you, because a lot of this technology does cost money, especially on the front side. So we get that business case, we sell in, and then we hopefully give a reasonable amount of time for a franchisee to adopt and to ask us questions or to, put it into one of their locations and really flush it out. So we work with them to make sure that everybody feels like they have a say and are part of the decision making throughout the entire process from concepting to launching.
I love how you put it, others are probably already doing this and hopefully we're not the last to do it.
I don't like to be the first. I don't like to be the first or the last. We ride somewhere in the upper middle.
The upper middle is perfect. You can see that it's working and you can be a little bit more confident in the decision to pursue. I do want to talk about the competition, especially in the brunch space, but in restaurants as a whole, it does seem like we're all just hustling to get this digital first experience out there, to do this digital transformation. How are you guys feeling like you're continuing to win in such a competitive space, especially brunch category?
I think we just have such unique offerings. And I think, we see that people come to us there's items we put on the menu that are incredibly, or have that healthy halo. And a lot of them are beautiful. They taste great. They don't always sell, right? So it's really understanding what your guest wants, what they actually are buying versus what the industry is telling you is the latest, food trend. And I think that's hard because I could put in every technology that every person called me about, but we have to kind of think about impact to team members. And when we look at competition, there's a lot of I call them shiny objects, right? But the pennies are sometimes the ones that really drive the business. And at the end of the day, are we creating a great experience in the four walls of the restaurant? And are we able to fulfill the expectations and meet the expectations or exceed them of our true loyal customers? I think you have to start there because everything else is going to be a distraction otherwise. And if you don't have enough people to show up in the restaurant or the culture's not strong, you're going to have turnover and the experience is going to show negatively to those customers. Now, to take that a step further, I think really looking at your tech stack and not trying to chase what everyone else is chasing. So I'll give you a good example. We don't have a full to bright points loyalty program. I mean, we have an email club that you join. We now are working in our CRM program very closely to really understand who each guest is, which allows us to put out targeted, personalized one-to-one messaging and to automate and to kind of group people into similar categories. But everybody started chasing the loyalty, craze, and really, and that's just an observation I had is who are you using for loyalty is a constant, what are you doing for your loyalty program? What does this person have over this vendor? And I think really stepping back and saying our loyal guests come to us, X number of times, and certainly, and they don't come to us for a discount either. That's so, that is where a lot of people have rushed to this discounting space just back. I have visions of 2009, in the BOGO land. And it was very hard to get out of in that spiral. And so for us, we're not a discounting brand. So how do we show you loyalty and reward you in a way that is not discount based, but makes you, Ashley, our guests, feel good? Is it here? We're going to let you, we know that you come 4 times a month, but you're one of our top. Yeah. So we're going to make sure you get to skip the line, or we know you, and we come to the table and we bring you a free mimosa, right? It starts to be less about are you coming to us for a deal? Or are you coming to us and then we're surprising and delighting you, that feels personal. And we're talking to you that way. So I think it's just really understanding what it is that your brand needs, where the gaps are, but also it doesn't have to be a one size fits all approach across every brand and the industry.
That data that you're going to have on the customer is so powerful. It almost unlocks the marketing 2.0 that you guys are going to be able to do in the coming year, and just really making that in-restaurant experience personalized and special. What other trends or predictions do you have for how that experience is going to change over the next few years?
Yeah, I think so. To your point about data, that is a really interesting one because we all talk data, and that word's almost used as much as integration is,
and loyalty.
and digital innovation. So those are the buzzwords, right? And loyalty, personalization's another. But I think that, the data piece is interesting because I find that that is one of the most critical pieces of businesses to focus on. And it's not as, I love data because I'm kind of nerdy like that, but it's not a sexy thing to focus on. But we are getting data now in cohorts, and I say we as an industry, and as marketers. And do we really use that, mine that data, or do we understand it? Do we have the resources internally or externally to do something with that data, or to help us understand what to do with it? Because otherwise it's just a stockpile of data. That's exactly what it is. And usually in a ton of different warehouses that don't talk to each other. And, so the first thing I recommend in conjunction with trying to do, talk to your customers in a personalized way, is actually understanding data, but being able to centralize it and make assumptions out of it. Because again, it can be centralized, but if you don't have a way to mine it or to use it, it's going to be virtually just daunting. So one of the things that we worked on is trying to pull in 4 or 5 different data warehouses and have them aggregated into, a tool like a BI tool or something that's able to then work with somebody who's going to help set those queries up and make it so that it's fills ops needs, marketing needs, supply chain. And then do we have a way to disperse it in an automated way is always a question as well. So I think that's one piece about the data. I think coming down the pipeline, gosh, that's a hard question, because like, if you ask me, it's like a blur from 2019 to now. I couldn't have crystal balled anything at this point, and I try not to totally put projections out there because they're going to be wrong. I think we will continue to see commodity shortages or price increases on menus, which will at some point become a elasticity, a sensitivity. Are we going to have, and we as an industry have to be cautious about pricing yourself out, because price is always an easy, shot in the arm. But there does come a point where, with inflation, and just the value has to be there. So what that value is does sometimes boil down to, are you getting for what you pay for? Are you happy with what you're getting? And are you fulfilled? So I think that's not going away anytime soon. And to be mindful of, packaging is another one. Plastic sometimes is cheaper, then it's paper, then, this month it's this, or they run out of glue to shut the bags. We've dealt with all of it. And I think, understanding, really truly understanding the sustainability push, is that, truly here to stay for every piece of our packaging? Or do we, right now, do we have some levers we can pull that might, later we want to move away from plastic altogether, but maybe right now is not the time. So just being strategic about supplies. Labor is the biggest, hands down, the biggest challenge for so many industries and trades. Restaurants are just one of them. But finding ways to really incentivize your teams without just being paid, just pay as the only incentive, to what, do we support you in your education if you stay a certain amount of time? What makes you want to work for us, that makes you really drawn to the culture and, believe in a brand. That's going to be critical. And that's for upper level too. It's not, that's 16-year-olds, that's full-time team members. I mean, and jumping and the ability to work from home, what are we doing as a strategy as a whole to retain our talent? I think robotics is still going to continue. We've definitely got the robotics piece, as labor continues to be a challenge. That's going to expedite, I think, the kiosk, cashless restaurants, and the need for less human hands in the equation. So those are the next 6 to 12 months in my mind. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Brandy, for all of that insight and wealth of knowledge you shared with us today. I know Carrie's jumping back on because we've got a packed lineup of other speakers coming up right behind
Playing
us.
the Jennifer Coolidge dance-off music for you.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you both so much for today, Brandy. My home brewed coffee this morning is really disappointing to me. now that I heard about your spiked cold brews,
Yes.
but I won't hold that against you. Just my own coffee. I just thanks so much for both joining us today.
We're due for brunch when you come in town.
It's a date.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye.